Science Policy and out of the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, and they have an idea to use robots to harvest water from our nearby solar system, that we're not limited to the resources that are just here on this planet, that we have the ability to take resources from elsewhere. For example, there's 90 trillion gallons of water that exist on the polar ice cap of Mars, and if we have an 11 trillion gallon shortage here, then there's certainly enough left over if we harvested it to sell health mineral water from Mars to a very eager public. So even though it's a situation that has its challenges, and there are practical things that can be done, so that gives me optimism, and I don't feel so despondent about the situation. I know there's things that can be done, but the most important thing, aside from whatever we do in the world, the most important thing that we can do is our inner life, the transformation of our attitudes. And that's what I think is so great about this upcoming event at Loyola Marymount, is we get diverse, multicultural perspectives on water from so many different faith and ethnic traditions, that we can think about water mythically, ritually, symbolically, intuitively, and as we this can transform us as we consider that, and then we don't just go out into the world mechanically and focus merely on the material circumstances. We have brought a spiritual perspective to it. And so that brings us to, very briefly, our second topic, which is why we're having an interfaith dialogue. And I know that it's been a priority among the Catholics to have interfaith dialogue and to have cooperation on certain topics, and this is one of them. And so we do have this excellent panel here, beginning with Danny Hall from SGI, the Soka Gakkai International, a Buddhist organization. Danny, could you tell us a little bit about your group and how you're engaged in the world and what water means in your tradition?
Sure. Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me on the program. Soka Gakkai International is an international lay Buddhist organization that practices Nichiren Buddhism, which is a form of Buddhism under the Mahayana branch of Buddhism. Nichiren Buddhism emphasizes the Lotus Sutra in particular of all the teachings of the historical Buddha Shakyamuni. One thing that's unique about the Lotus Sutra is it more than anywhere else stresses the absolute equality of all people and the ability of all people to manifest the life state of what we call Buddhahood just as they are in this lifetime. So regardless of age, gender, social standing, no matter how much money you make or what your zip code is, sexual orientation, anything, all of us equally possess this potential for Buddhahood. And I think based on that conviction, the goal of Nichiren Buddhist practice is to enable oneself and to help others manifest this state of Buddhahood, to bring out their highest potential and to contribute to society. SGI, as a lay community, is engaged in the issue of water matters and sustainable development in a lot of different ways. It's a registered NGO with the United Nations, focusing primarily on three areas: peace and disarmament, human rights education, and sustainable development. And in regards to sustainable development, you can look at it from our perspective in many different ways. As an NGO community, there are a number of initiatives that have been launched, such as traveling exhibitions and multimedia resources being produced. At the 2002 World Summit on Sustainable Development, the international president of the SGI, Daisaku Ikeda, issued a proposal about global empowerment, and it ultimately led to the adoption by the UN of the International Decade of Education for Sustainable Development. And so a lot of these resources started to be developed by the SGI and other organizations such as Earth Charter International around that time. The goal being to raise public awareness about these issues, to think about them in ways where the macro and the micro can combine, what these global issues that seem so big mean to the individual in the local context, and to empower people to feel like they can take action. So there's a source of encouragement and hope that's created, and a way to help foster leadership for the future. But also, at the level of religious teachings and doctrine, it's an issue that's interesting to look at as well. I was thinking about it. There was one particular passage from the Parable of the Medicinal Herbs chapter of the Lotus Sutra that contains a really poetic sentence about a culture of peace and what that would look like to attain a state of society like that through the Buddhist lens. States, though all these plants and trees grow in the same earth and are moistened by the same rain, each has its differences and particulars. And it paints this scene of how, all these different forms of plant life are sort of enveloped in this misty cloud. And this water source is nurturing all of them. And from a Buddhist perspective, that cloud of water, that nurturing source, is a symbol of the universal life of Buddhahood, or the universal law of Buddhahood that Nichiren Buddhists perceive permeates all of life and all of phenomena. And through Buddhist practice, you strive to fuse your life with it, put your life in rhythm and in harmony with the environment to bring forth your full potential. So in this field of nature, there may be roses and tulips and cactus and whatever it may be, cacti. But a rose doesn't try to be a tulip, and a tulip doesn't try to be a rose or a cactus. All of them are fully and uniquely themselves. And because of that, you're able to create an environment that where harmony exists. You can have a sustainable ecological environment. But it's also a metaphor for human relations as well, to strive to develop spiritual practice and philosophy in society that empowers people to reveal their full and best potential in their own unique way, just as they are, as a means to create harmony in society. I think the work of us as Buddhists, as a spiritual community, is to strive to do that ourselves and to encourage others to do that in their own unique way in their daily life. And as we're able to make progress day by day and creating a transformation in our inner life, we believe that simultaneously creates change in the environment. That there's a Buddhist concept called Eshofuni, that's the Japanese term for it, essentially meaning oneness of life in the environment. That it's easy for us to think of self as everything perhaps from our skin inwards, and environment as everything from outside of our skins. But from a Buddhist perspective, that's an illusion. Buddhism views those realities as one, and there's no separation between self and the environment. So if you can be successful in creating a great transformation in oneself, you'll simultaneously create a change in the environment as well. And I think that, that message is something that's important to think about when it comes to looking at ecological crises and the increasing challenges of scarce water supplies, because each of us individuals can look at this global phenomenon and feel like, what can I do, right? This isn't a problem that any one person can solve by themselves, but there's something that all of us can do within our local context to make a difference. And I think part of our Buddhist practice is to help people develop global consciousness, a global perspective, a sense of global citizenship, and with that consciousness, take action in your daily life as a means to be a protagonist for positive change as part of a global community. And so at a faith level, from the depths of our prayer, from our deepest transformations that we strive to make within ourselves, we believe that's affecting a positive transformation on perhaps an unseen level in the environment, but also on a very pragmatic, practical level. We view ourselves as important agents of change and protagonists who can take action in our families, in our homes, in our schools, in our workplaces, in our local communities to create the kind of change that we believe needs to take place on a larger scale. And I think people who are able to ingrain that kind of life philosophy into their daily routine can make progress in overcoming a sense of hopelessness that can surround this type of issue, feeling that I can make a difference. And not only that it gives me a deep sense of personal meaning and a sense of mission as a human being to be able to take action this way based on my spiritual philosophy and my spiritual practice. So we hope to contribute in all those different levels continuously as the world increasingly strives to grapple with this type of issue.
And I know from personal experience and witness that you are a change agent. Can you tell a little bit about your work as a graduate student and the conferences that you've hosted that I benefited so much from attending and getting involved in this kind of social action?
Sure. I attended graduate school at USC. I studied public diplomacy, and I focused on the role of religion in international affairs. And this was shortly after September 11th, when a lot of research funding was going towards the study of religion as a source of conflict in the world. But I wanted to look at religion as a source of peace building in the world, and sort of change people's paradigm a little bit, that religion in some sense is an ambivalent thing. You create of it what you determine to. And religious teachings can be interpreted in different ways and can be used as a force for evil or a force for good. And it's really up to us in every generation to take ownership over our religious teachings and use it as a means to create value in society. I was really striving to do that in school and also in work. And one of the programs that I'm responsible for is called the Culture of Peace Distinguished Speaker Series. We've been doing that since 2007. That's a program that was created in response to a suggestion by a good friend of the SGI, Ambassador Anwarul Chowdhury. He's a former UN Undersecretary General and the principal architect of the UN's Declaration and Program of Action on a Culture of Peace, which was unanimously adopted by the UN General Assembly in September of 1999. And the goal of the program is to really create regular community dialogues where people can reflect on the values, attitudes, and behaviors that reject violence and inspire creative energy towards the peaceful resolution of conflicts. Hopefully look at some of the most pressing issues facing global society and allow people to walk away having learned at least one thing that they can apply meaningfully to their daily life. Really want to take the arcane, what can be sometimes arcane language of UN speak and bring it down to a daily life context for people. So we invite speakers from academia, business, nonprofit, entertainment, education to come talk about how they are putting the ideals of the culture of peace into action in their lives, in their careers, and hopefully inspire people who are attending to feel like they can make a change or take something they've learned and apply it to their lives as well. And we've had individuals specifically addressing the issue of water as well, talking about climate change and peace. Mary Evelyn Tucker has been a speaker in the series who is one of the directors of the Religion and Ecology program at Yale University. So it's been a really great space.
Daniel,
thank you.
That's so much. You have just given us so much, and yet there's two other gifts that I want to hear from. And what you have said so far just tells me more and more how and why this show has come together today and why y'all are doing what you're doing. Awesome.
Thank you.
But let's move it on so we have time to hear what the Swami and I believe the other one
We've got up next, thank you, Danny, and thank you for putting on those guest lectures. I've certainly been inspired by them. This is an outcome of that. Our next guest is Reverend Paul Nugent. He represents the metaphysical religion known as the Aetherius Society, and he'll tell us a little bit about who they are, how he got involved, and what water means to them.